Hello everyone, myself B. Madhumita, Assistant Professor, Department of Nutrition and Dietetics in St.Josephs College of Arts and Science for Women Household. Here the topic is sample design. A sample design is a definite plan for obtaining a sample from a given population. It refers to the technique or the procedure the researcher would adapt in selecting items for the sample. Sample design may as well lay down the number of items to be included in the sample, that is, the size of the sample. Sample design is determined before data are collected. There are many sample designs from which a researcher can choose. Some designs are relatively more precious and easier to apply the others. Researcher must select, prepare a sample design which should be reliable and appropriate for his research study. Steps for sampling design. The main steps of sampling design areas are follows. Objective population, identify the sample frame, specify the sampling unit, specify the sampling method, determine the sample size, specify the sampling plan, parameters of interest, data collection, non-respondents, selection of proper sampling design, organizing field work, pilot survey, budgetary constraint, select the sample. Objective. The first step of sampling design is to define the objectives of survey in clear and concrete terms. The sponsor or the researcher of the survey should confirm that the objectives are commensurate with money, manpower, and time limit available for the survey. The population should be clear defined. For effective business research, the very first step involves around the definition of the target population. It is the aggregate of all the elements defined prior to selection of the sample. It is necessary to define population in terms of elements, sampling units, extent, time. A few examples are here. When one is to conduct a survey on the consumption or tea in a Tamil Nadu, then the specifications might be as follows. Element housewives. Sampling units households, then housewives. Extent Tamil Nadu state. Time January 22 30 2022. When one in to monitor the sales of a product recently introduced by the population might be element our product sampling units retail outlets supermarkets then our product extend Tamil Nadu time January 22 30 2022. All the specification must be contained in the designated population. Omission of any of them would render the definition of population incomplete. Identify the sample frame. Identify the sample frame, which could be a telephone directory, a list of blocks and localities of a city. A map or any other list consists of any all the sampling units. It may be pointed out that if the frame is incomplete or otherwise defective, sampling will not be able to overcome these shortcomings. This question is how to ensure that the frame is perfect and free from any defect. Leslie Kish has observed that a perfect frame is one where every element appears on the list separately, once, only once, and nothing else appears on the list. Here is the diagram. Specify the sampling unit. The sampling unit is a basic unit containing the elements of the target population. The sampling unit may be different from the element. For example, if one wanted a sample of housewives, it might be possible to have access to such a sample directly. However, it might be easier to select households as a sampling unit and then interview housewives in each of the selected households. As mentioned in the preceding step, The sampling frame should be complete and accurate, and otherwise, the selection of a sampling unit might be defective. Specify the sampling method. One of the most important decisions in this regard is to determine which of the two probability and non-probability unit is to be chosen. Probability samples are also known as random samples and non-probability samples as non-random samples. Determine the sample size. One has to decide how many elements of a target population are to be chosen. This refers to the number of items to be selected from the universe to constitute a sample. The size of sample should neither be exclusive large nor too small. It should be optimum. An optimum sample is an which fulfills the requirements of efficiency, representativeness, reliability, and flexibility. Specify the sampling plan. One should indicate how decisions made so far are to be implemented. For example, if a survey of households is to be conducted, a sampling plan should define a household, contain instructions to the interviewer as to how he should take a systematic sample of households, advise him on what he should do when no one is available on his visit to the household, and so on. There are some pertinent issues in a sampling survey to which a sampling plan should provide answer. Parameters of interest. Statistical concept of a population are called parameters. Example: population mean, population proportion, etc. When we do census survey, we get the actual value of parameters. On the other hand, when we do sample survey, we get the estimates of unknown population parameters in place of their actual values. Data collection. No irrelevant information should be collected and no essential information should be discarded. The objectives of a survey very much clear in the mind of surveyor. The methods are primary data collection and secondary data collection. Here the diagram of data collection. Non-respondents. Because of practical difficulties, data may not be collected for all the sample units. These non-respondents tend to change the result. The reason for non-respondent should be recovered by the investigator. Such cases should be handled with caution. Selection of proper sampling design. The researcher must decide the types of sample he will use, that is, he must decide about the technique to be used in selecting the items for the sample. In fact, this technique or procedure stand design issues. There are several sample designs out of which the researcher must choose one for a study. Obviously, one must select that design which for a given sample size and for a chosen cost has a smaller sampling error. Organizing fieldwork. The success of the survey depends on the reliable fieldwork. There should be efficient supervisor staff and trained personnel for the fieldwork. Pilot survey. It is always helpful to try out the research design on a small scale before going into the field. This is called as pilot survey or pre-test. It might be give the better idea of a practical problems and troubles. Budgetary constraint. Cost consideration from practical point of view have a major impact upon decisions relating to not only the size of sample but also to the type of sample. This fact can even lead to the use of not probability sample. Select the sample. This is the final step in the sampling process. A good deal of office and fieldwork is involved in the actual selection of a sample elements. Most of the problems in a stage are faced by the interviewer while contacting the sample respondent. Thank you.